Hey guys, I'm Jessie, and today I have my January wrap up for you. January was actually a really good month. I am fully back into my reading groove, which makes me so happy because, as you know, I spent like the last couple months of the past year just like in this massive reading slump and busy and not really completing the books that I wanted to and not really reading anything at all. So the fact that I'm reading again and back into it and just enjoying what I'm reading just really makes me happy. So I'm very excited to talk to you about the 6 books that I managed to finish in the month of January. First off, I'm really excited because I finished not 1, but 2 series that I have started and have been meaning to finish. So that kind of knocks off some of my 2023 reading goals where I want to complete series, and I am working on that, as is evident by the fact that I completed 2 series this month. The first one was The Infernal Devices. I read both Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess in the month of January, and I had a blast with these. Honestly, it surprised me because I was not a massive fan of the Mortal Instruments series. Honestly, I don't think I ever actually finished the last book. And if I did, I have no memory of it, right? I didn't care enough about those books. There was the weird sibling stuff, that are they, aren't they? And I just, for some reason, was not here for the Mortal Instruments. So I put off reading this series for so long. And I read the first book last year, which was on one of my exploding TBRs, and I surprised myself by really enjoying it. But then I never picked up the other 2, which I already owned. And then some friends of mine decided we were all reading Shadowhunter books, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna jump in there with them. So thank you, Roger and Angela and everybody for kind of pushing me back into this world, because I had a freaking blast with these, okay? Typically, I don't love a love triangle, but in this series, it was done so well. I actually enjoyed the love triangle in this series. And it's typically you have the one that you're this is the one she's gonna end up with. I like this one better, the other one's douchebag or whatever. But not this one. You like both love interests. And honestly, if it would have ended in a poly romance, I wouldn't have been upset. That would have been perfection. But I really, really enjoyed it. The second book, Clockwork Prince, was probably one of my least favorites out of the series, but I still loved it. And it actually had one of my favorite scenes from the whole series. So while it wasn't my favorite book overall, it had my favorite scene from the whole series. And I'm not going to spoil it for you because obviously that one scene is kind of a spoiler. Can't really talk about that. But it had my favorite scene. And it kind of solidified the fact that I absolutely love Jem. While Tessa is not my favorite female main character of all time, Jem is probably one of my favorite male protagonists in most books. He is just the best. He's a cinnamon roll, and I just loved Jem, and I really liked Will as well. I thought it was really cool, all of the callbacks to what I remembered of the Mortal Instruments as well. So there was some cool little crossover things, but this one was probably not my favorite, but it was super good. And then the final book in the series, Clockwork Princess, 5 stars. It was fantastic. The way it ended, the way it wrapped everything up, I just loved it. It was my kind of CW drama, if you will. Was it perfect? No. Was there stuff that was okay, that made it easy, or, well, that fixed this problem, or the motivations of the villain and stuff like that. Like, we're not getting deep into it. These are Shadowhunter books, and I had a great time with them. And to me, that's what matters. Like, I'm not gonna dive into the prose and the philosophical. No, we're not about that. We're about, I had a good time. I couldn't put it down. It was book candy. I just loved every moment of this book. Like, I love seeing, you know, character callbacks and stuff like that. And I thought the epilogue was golden, okay? That made it for me. I loved it. I also ended up reading After the Bridge, which is a short story set after the epilogue of this book. And if y'all have not read it and you've read the series, you need to. I think it was on like Cassandra Clare's Tumblr or something back in the day. You can find it online. It's not like a paid for story. It's just something that like she herself posted online for everybody. So it's not pirating. You can read it for free online, like on her own website or her own like Tumblr. Because people still have Tumblr? I don't think so. But that also was fantastic. So I say go and read After the Bridge if you haven't read this. But I love how it ended. I love how the love triangle was kind of resolved. And there were certain moments in it where I was like, that I remember from the Mortal Instruments. And I know she wrote these 3 books as well as the last 3 books of the Mortal Instruments kind of in tandem. And there's a lot of crossover. Like I said, I don't remember a whole lot of the Mortal Instruments, but I kind of want to go back and reread just the last 3 just to see those crossover moments, because I was like, oh, okay. Like, I had to like Google some stuff because I was like, do I remember that? But all in all, this was a really fun series. I think I'm going to do a video about the series as a whole and like if you should read it, who should read it, reading it for the first time as a 30-something-year-old lady who is not the target demographic. But all in all, this was a great series, and I'm actually continuing on my Shadowhunter journey in February. You know what? I said that I finished 2 series. I finished 3 now that I think of it. So I finished 3 series that I've been reading. So even better, right? The next one that I read and finished was The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson. This is the last book in Mistborn Era 2. And I am one of those people that absolutely love Era 2. Okay? I loved Era 2. It is completely different tonally, in vibes and everything than Era 1 of Mistborn. So if you haven't read it, like go in knowing that. But I enjoyed the whole Era 2, and I thought this like really wrapped it up extremely well. It was one of those bittersweet endings that I feel like Sanderson does really well, and I like a bittersweet ending. Most books that I read, I like that bittersweet, happy, sad kind of ending, because like not everything can end super happily and good for everybody, right? I like the books that end kind of bittersweet. But this was the last book, and it was so much fun. If you don't like Wayne, you're probably not going to have the best time with this book, because it's pretty Wayne heavy, but I love Wayne. Wayne like reminds me of a friend of mine that I know in real life who is just always there with the inappropriate jokes at the most inappropriate times, but really means well and has like a heart of gold. Like, that is Wayne. And we really do get a lot of character growth with him as well as our other characters. I love just seeing everybody. There is a time jump. So this takes place, I think it's like 5 or 6 years after the 3rd book in the series. So like there is a time jump. And of course, I love seeing Steris. Anytime I can get more Steris, I love her. With her lists and her planning and her anxiety. And it kind of comes to the forefront in this book. She has her moments, and I absolutely love being able to see Steris kind of having her hero moments. Just fantastic. And probably my favorite part of this book as a whole are the Cosmere connections. I love seeing them, and they are getting more and more just in your face blatant at this point. Definitely more so than they are in like older Sanderson books. And I get it. I think I watched an interview with him where he talked about when he was first publishing his books and had the idea for this Cosmere, he wasn't sure if it was going to like take off, and he wasn't sure if the publishers were going to go for it, you know, when he was like a newer author. So they were very small Easter eggs and just kind of slipped in. And now they are in your face. There is a hella crossover, and I love seeing that. I can't really say anything because it'll spoil not only this book and Era 2 and Era 1 and like all other Cosmere books, but there is so much Cosmere crossover, and I love that. And if you don't, that's totally understandable, because I've seen some complaints where people are like, it's getting too much. It's getting to where it's too much crossover. But I love that. Like, to me, it's very Marvel-esque. It's very, you know, like it's the MCU of fantasy books. And I have a great freaking time with it. Even if I don't pick up on like every single connection, because God knows I don't. Like, I have to look stuff up and I don't remember certain things. And I'm like, oh yeah. So obviously I don't get them all, but I had so much fun with this. Yeah, just seeing Wax and Wayne and Marasi and Steris and just everybody, this whole cast of characters, I just love them. And it has me really excited to see what else is going to go on in the greater Cosmere, because we know Sanderson has it all planned out. So I'm very curious, like, what's going to happen next. Keeping along with the theme of the Cosmere, I read Secret Project 1, Tress of the Emerald Sea. I loved it. I did it as a buddy read, and there is actually a live show that we did the other day talking about it. It is full spoilers, like hella spoilers. So if you want to check it out, I will link that down below. That is on Roger's channel. But if you've read it, go check it out. We had a great time with that. But I loved it. Like, completely honestly, it was just a fun time. Again, this was one that I felt was very different tonally than his other Cosmere works. While Mistborn Era 2 is different in its humor and, you know, kind of tonally, it still fits with like the Cosmere Sanderson vibes. Tress is a fairy tale. It is like not even like a Sanderson-esque fairy tale. It is a fairy tale, whimsical, fun, and there is so much snark and so much just humor, and it's fantastic and really different than, I feel like, than anything that Sanderson has really put out before. Again, there is also hella Cosmere crossovers in this book. So if you haven't read certain other things, namely the Mistborn series, I would say Tress is probably not the best one. It won't spoil anything. I just feel like you don't get as much enjoyment out of it if you don't know some of the characters in crossover that are in like the Mistborn series, eras 1 and 2, actually. Yeah, like it's still fun, even if this is your very first Cosmere book. But I think, to me, it was more enjoyable knowing certain characters, especially from like the Mistborn Era 1 and Era 2. So I had so much fun with that. So Tress is actually a standalone, which is fantastic. It is set on a completely new planet. So it's not anything that we've been to before. And it's a fairy tale retelling. So our girl Tress has to leave her secluded island home to go save the love of her life. And what I really like about it is she's quite different from most protagonists in stories. And we are actually kind of hit over the head with that. And I thought it was so much fun. She is not like other girls, and there's like some really fun references to the not like other girls thing in there, which cracked me up. But she's also very thoughtful and very like time considering, and she's like, wait, let me think about this first before I rush in. Let me make a plan. Let me, you know, not jump to conclusions. And the whole purpose of that is you're like, wow, that's not like most characters. And it's just, it's so fun. And it's just such a different story for Sanderson. I'm not going to go too much into it here. You can check out the live show if you've read it. I'm also going to be doing a spoiler-free and spoiler-filled Cosmere Connection-y type video. So you can check that out if you want to, like if you haven't read it, I will have that video come up and you can watch like the spoiler-free section or like the Cosmere Connection section of it as well. But so far, I'm kicking myself in the face for not backing the Kickstarter. I wanted to, I thought about it. I just was like, I can't spend the money that I want to spend, like the package that I wanted to get. Obviously, I wanted to do the full out and it was gonna be like $600. And I was like, I can't. And I wanted to. And of course, my husband was like, just do it. And I'm like, that's a lot of money. And I didn't do it, but I think I am going to actually end up ordering the physical copies of the books from Dragonsteel because they did have some extras. If they're still in stock, I need to check. If they're not, then I'm just going to order the regular hardbacks when they come out. But yeah, I've been reading, I read the ebook and I think book 1 of The Secret Project was a hit. And the final book that I read in the month of January is one that wrapped up another series. And technically I finished this in February, but it was like the first day of February and I read most of it in January. So we're going to count it here. And that is The Bone Shard War, which is the last book in the Drowning Empire series. I actually got this as a NetGalley arc. I requested it on a whim and I was like, ooh, it's on there. I was like, there ain't no way we're going to get it. I got it right away. They approved me right away. And I like dropped everything and started reading it because I loved book 1 and 2, The Bone Shard Daughter and The Bone Shard Emperor. And I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 5 stars. It wasn't perfect and it did some things that bothered me. But all in all, I thought it wrapped up the series really well. It answered a lot of questions that I think she set up really well in both books 1 and 2. So I think there was a lot of forethought there in her planning where it answers questions from book 1. It really doesn't leave very many questions unanswered. And while there were things that I had issue with, mainly the main villain's purpose and motivation wasn't really making sense. To me, it was just kind of like bad to be bad. Like, just like, I want to watch the world burn was probably it. But I felt like there should have been just a tinge more there. But overall, I loved it. Again, I'm going to be doing like a full series review where I do like a spoilery section and a spoiler-free section for anybody who's interested in talking about the Drowning Empire. But just know that overall, this series is probably one of my favorites. It, you know, after finishing it, it just has shot up to like, this is a series that I would recommend to a lot of people because it is easily accessible, even though it has some stranger storytelling aspects to it. So some of the chapters, depending on whose POV we're in, actually change POV. So like some of them are written in first person and some of them are written in third person. And honestly, I didn't really fully notice that at first. It did not bother me, but I think it's really cool how she did that and played with the POVs where you'll be reading from one and it'll be I, me, and then, you know, you'll go to another chapter and it'll be a different character and it's he, she, they, and it's just really cool how Andrea Stewart did that. And I'm really excited to see whatever she comes up with next because I think she's a fantastic writer and did such a good job with this series. All right, guys. Well, that is everything that I read in the month of January. It was a really good reading month. not only did I read 6 books, which is a lot for me, especially considering the past, couple of months, I finished 3 series, and all of the books I read were like 4 or 5 stars. Like, they were all just like new favorites and so good. So I'm really excited, and I'm happy to move into February and see where that month takes me. All right, well, thank you guys for hanging out with me. My name is Jessie, and I will see you next time. Bye.